Welcome, everybody. We appreciate you joining us today. I am Tara King, a Senior Project Director at the American Association for the Advancement of Science, or AAAS for short. AAAS is the world's largest general science association and the publisher of the science family of journals. I serve as the Center Coordinator of the S-STEM Resource and Evaluation Center, which is abbreviated as the S-STEM REC. We're happy to facilitate this panel discussion among current S-STEM PIs of community college-focused projects. We thank our panelists in advance for providing their insights and sharing their experiences to aid others who are preparing S-STEM proposals, which this cycle are due by March 3rd. Next slide. Let me start with a few housekeeping items. Please feel free to ask questions to our panelists at any time using the Q&A feature, which is located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We have enabled upvoting, so if you see a question that you'd like to hear the answer to, please give it a thumbs up. We'll prioritize getting answers to the questions that have the most upvotes first. One other note about the Q&A feature. Keep an eye on not only the open questions tab, but the answered questions tab as well. Some of the more straightforward questions may be answered in writing. The slides being presented today can be found on the AAAS S-STEM REC website. If you'd like to follow along on your computer, you can download them now. My colleagues put the link in the chat. Thank you, Rachel. In addition, we are pleased to have a live transcriptioner providing closed captioning, and 2 American Sign Language interpreters joining us today. Our thanks to these individuals for helping us make the information presented more widely accessible. We hope everything runs smoothly, but if you have any technical difficulties or questions, contact my colleague, Rachel Stivers, in the chat or send her an email. And finally, we'd really appreciate your feedback on today's webinar. We'd like to know how useful it was for you, any suggestions you have. A short survey will appear when you leave the webinar, and if you're unable to take it upon exiting today, a link to the survey will be emailed to you tomorrow. We appreciate you sharing your thoughts to help us improve our activities. Next slide. For anyone just joining us, hi and welcome. My name is Tara King, and I'm the Center Coordinator of the AAAS STEM Resource and Evaluation Center. Let me provide a quick overview of today's agenda. First, I'll give a short snippet of the AAAS STEM Resource and Evaluation Center and direct you to resources that can help you with your STEM proposal preparation. Then I'll pass the virtual microphone to Tom Kim, lead of the NSF S-STEM program, who will share important considerations for community college-based proposals. Then we'll spend the bulk of our time in discussion with our panel. We have 3 fantastic PIs of current S-STEM awards that focus on supporting community college scholars joining us today. They are Jessica Ennis from Flathead Valley Community College, Yoel Rodriguez from Hostos Community College, and Will Tyson from the University of South Florida. Next slide. Let me provide you with a brief overview of the REC. The management of the S-STEM Resource and Evaluation Center was awarded to AAAS in October 2022 through a competitive NSF proposal process. The REC promotes effective strategies and practices to increase the number of talented, low-income students who obtain degrees and careers in STEM. The REC's work acts across multiple levels to accomplish this goal. For instance, it supports the effectiveness of the S-STEM portfolio through publishing outcomes and impacts reports. It builds capacity of current and prospective S-STEM grantees through webinars like this one. And it supports S-STEM scholars' STEM persistence and professional development by convening an annual in-person scholars meeting. We welcome you to visit our website to learn more. Next slide. While the REC is managed by AAAS in coordination with NSF, we cannot reach our goals without significant contributions of our full team. which includes the partner organizations listed on this slide. Next slide. One of our partners, MN Associates, provides evaluation and research capacity building opportunities for the S-STEM community. We'd like to make you aware of a set of complimentary webinars that they will be hosting on the topics of developing research and evaluation plans and developing and using a logic model or theory of change. These webinars will begin next week, and links with more information will be posted in the chat. Also, M&A has created useful guidebook on preparing research and evaluation plans for NSF S-STEM grant proposals, as well as repositories of tools and measures related to evidence-based practices. Additionally, you can reach out to M&A with your specific evaluation planning inquiry using a request form. We encourage you to explore all of these resources. And just one last note, we're promoting consultation with M&A as they are a REC partner. However, this does not constitute an endorsement of M&A as evaluators by the National Science Foundation. Next slide. Today's webinar is the third of 4 in our proposal preparation series. In case you missed our January webinars, during which audience questions were addressed to NSF S-STEM program leads, you can access the slides and recordings on our website. Please see the link that'll be posted in the chat for more information, including the registration link for our last webinar in this series, which will be hosted on February 9th. And next slide. Finally, as you prepare your S-STEM grant proposals, these 3 NSF resources provide essential guidance. They're really a must view. They are the current solicitation text, an S-STEM program overview recording that explains the solicitation requirements in detail, and an FAQ document that answers the most commonly asked questions about the solicitation. All 3 links have been posted in the chat. At this point, I'd like to pass it over to NSF S-STEM program lead Tom Kim, who will highlight important considerations for community college-based proposals. Tom?
Thanks, Tara, and welcome everyone. It's good to see all of your, at least your names posted in the participant list. So very briefly, I want to present some items that are common issues or flags when it comes to S-STEM proposals that engage with community colleges in a substantive way. And so these 5 bullet items address basic framework for things to look out for. So first off, and this is in the solicitation, when we see proposals that have community colleges listed as partnered institutions, there should be clear evidence of authentic and equitable partnership. This includes the disbursement of scholarship funds to students at the community colleges as well as to a 4-year partner. Okay, any level of inequity in the distribution of funds across any of the dimensions of your proposal is going to raise flags with the reviewers and with program officers at NSF. I do also want to point out that scholars have up to 5 years to earn a degree at each respective degree level. So if there's a partnership between an associate's level institution and a baccalaureate institution, that's 5 years per. So the total could span 10 years. Obviously, the grant only lasts 6, so there's a limitation there, but you have flexibility with respect to the duration of the support that you're actually planning to give to the scholars. If transfer is a goal between a community college and a 4-year school, there should be clear evidence of supports on both sides of the transfer portal. Okay, the associate's degree should carve out some way in which they are facilitating access to the transfer, and then transfer to the institution, the baccalaureate institution, should provide evidence of how they are going to support those students who come in via the transfer portal. All of that being said, if you are supporting a student at a community college, you cannot compel them to go to the partner institution. They have free will, and the attainment of their associate's degree or transfer to any 4-year college, not necessarily in your partner list, is a benchmark for success at that level. So be sure that you don't artificially constrain options of your students at the community college level. Okay, and last but not least, for scholars who are engaged in transfer between partnering S-STEM entities at the associate and baccalaureate level, make sure that you have a clear articulation between your institutions. You should not make the scholar reapply. If they were a scholar at the partnering community college and they transfer to the partnering four-year baccalaureate institution, they are scholars and therefore they shouldn't have to reestablish their credentials just because of the transfer issue. That's a quick synopsis of things that have oftentimes uh, caused problems in the review of collaborative proposals between community colleges and four-year schools. And with that, I'm going to pass the baton back to Tara, and I will be answering some of the more, mechanical questions in the Q&A in the back channel. Otherwise, I'm just going to turn off my camera, turn off my mic, and watch the proceedings, just like the rest of you.
Thank you so much, Tom. We appreciate you and Mike joining us to be here and, like you said, answer some of the background questions. So I'm happy to introduce our panelists. Next slide, please. We have Dr. Jennifer Ennis Whitehouse, who is an associate professor of chemistry at Flathead Valley Community College in Montana and the PI of FVCC's Track 1 Award. Dr. Yoel Rodriguez, who is a professor of physics and chemistry and PI of a Track 2 Award at Hostos Community College in New York. And Dr. Will Tyson, who is a professor of sociology at the University of South Florida, who is a PI on both a Track 3 grant and an S-STEM Research Hub grant. So you can find complete bios of panelists on our website and more details about each of the panelists' S-STEM projects in links that we've shared in the chat. Next slide. So please continue to add your questions in the Q&A box. We welcome you to direct your questions to a specific panelist by indicating their name. Also remember you may upvote questions that have been asked and check the Answered Questions tab for written responses. One final note, the aim of today's discussion is to seek advice and insights from current PIs of community college-based programs. So if you have questions that are technical or purely solicitation-based, please refer to the resources I mentioned earlier, including the NSF S-STEM program overview and FAQ document, as well as a recording of the REC's first two proposal preparation webinars, which were held last month. And by chance, Tom or Mike might be able to answer some in writing in the background, but we really want to focus on the questions directed to panelists and their experience supporting community college scholars. Okay, we could take our slides down now. Welcome, Jessica, Yoel, and Will. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Let's see. Thank you. There's Will. I didn't see you for a second. To kick off our discussion, I'd like to give each of you some time to briefly introduce yourself and provide your response to our opening question, which is, what is something you wish you would have known before submitting your first S-STEM proposal? Well, we'll start with Jessica and then go to Yoel and then to Will. So Jessica, thanks for joining us. Happy to have you start.
Hi, Tara, and hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Yes, I'm Jessica Ennis. I'm an associate professor of chemistry here at FECC. And we're nestled right outside of Glacier National Park. We're in a very rural area. We serve about 3,400 students. And thank you for the introduction. Our S-STEM project was a Track 1 Capacity Building Award for FECC. And we designed our program to holistically look at our student with three main components, not just our financial support, but a second pillar really focusing on wellness and mental health support, which is essential for um, I mean, not just the mental health challenges that we see globally on our campuses globally, but we really feel a value to provide intentional counseling and wellness resources for our students to help support their persistence. And then the third was the STEM identity and community piece, where we provide them with one-on-one faculty mentorship, intentional cohort building activities, just helping them see them as true scientists and engineers and whatever STEM area they're pursuing. So, with that question, I have a unique experience. I'm sure not unique to everyone, but just a unique perspective here because I wasn't the original PI during the initial submission. I was in a faculty role. I transitioned to the PI position just as the award was starting for our institution. Looking back, um, I I valued this, but I want to probably express how critical it was to have a roadmap of intent from the very beginning. It's especially when you inherit a proposal, you're not just inheriting the budget, you're really inheriting a vision for our institution. And it needed to be clear. I was so grateful for the clarity of how it was going to be implemented over it. So, I definitely had to connect with the past PI and our current PI. I was so grateful for that. I connected um, to a large extent to all the different areas across our campus, which were playing a vital role in our project. And also, I think it was just important. I was connecting with our exec staff as well to make sure that our project was going to continue to be embedded in FECC's mission and our goals as an institution. Thanks.
Thanks, Jessica, for sharing that. And yeah, I don't want you to feel like you were too alone out there because I've heard of plenty of cases where the person who's currently the PI was not the person who originally submitted the proposal, but due to turnover or other reasons, then became the PI and inherited it. So thanks for sharing those thoughts. Yoel, happy to hear about your experiences.
Thank you so much, Tara, and thank you so much for the invitation as well to this panel. And thank you for the introduction. Well, I'm Joe Rodriguez from Hosto Community College of the City University of New York, CUNY. We have been awarded 2 tracks to S-STEM program. The first one for $1 million starting in March 2019 for 5 years, and the other one was more recently for $2 million starting in 2024. Our 2 STEM program target engineering students. We call it the Hostos Engineering Academic Talent Scholarship Program, the HEAT program. For our first HEAT program, we serve 39 high-achieving low-income students with demonstrated financial need who were pursuing, as I mentioned before, a degree in engineering. Out of these 39 students, 37 scholars have been either graduated with an associate degree, transferred to a 4-year institution, graduated with a bachelor engineering degree, or are still pursuing engineering or the STEM degree at Hosto Community College, Groff School of Engineering, Cornell University, or Princeton University. Also, 4 of the scholars who already have earned their bachelor engineering degree have pursued graduate studies to already have earned their master's in engineering degree from Cornell and 1 from the Groff School of Engineering. And the 4th one is currently at Penn State University pursuing their mechanical engineering also degree. Our current HEAT 2 program has 20 scholars through 2 cohorts, and they are doing well as well. Also, in terms of our structure of the program, besides the financial support, we provide combined peer and faculty mentorship. This actually has been a very important, key for the success of the program. And also, we provide our students with undergraduate research experience. Now, regarding the question that you asked, what is something you wish you would have known before submitting your first S-STEM proposal? I believe actually, to include a behavioral social scientist faculty with expertise in assessing pedagogical outcome in the research team was a plus, because all of us actually have a scientist or engineering, mindset. including a social scientist was really, really important for the success later on of our proposal. And also, I would recommend, if possible, to read Fundy S-STEM example early in the writing, process, seeing how other structure their narrative serve as for us for not reinventing the wheel, to narrow down the narrative and not to add more than what is needed for this kind of proposal. Thank you.
Thanks, Joel. And Will, thanks for joining us. And what surprised you? You have 2 awards, so I don't know how you want to tackle this question about your very first award, potentially.
Sure. So first of all, yeah, I am a professor of sociology, so I'm come from a different space, and I'm also a professor at a 4-year university. So I definitely come at this from a little bit different angle than other folks who are specifically in the community college space. But my background can explain that. So I am in sociology of education. That's my main area. Our research looks at the connections between educational experiences, career pathways, and key life course transitions among students from various backgrounds. For the last 20 years, I've led and been involved with the National Science Foundation projects that look at STEM education and career pathways through high schools, community colleges, and 4-year universities. I came to USF as a postdoc on an NSF grant for the old ROLE program, Research on Learning, was it Research on Learning and Education program back in 2004. And I have been consistently funded on NSF projects. I literally started as a postdoc and then kind of worked my way up to like quantitative researcher, then worked my way up to co-PI, and then I became had led my first grant as a PI in the ATE program, Advanced Technological Education program. I'm sure some of you out there are familiar with that. That program is specifically geared towards funding community college technician education programs. So I've been involved with the ATE program for God, I don't, like almost it's about 15 years now. I think, yeah, I got word that this grant was unofficially about to be funded about 15 years ago. That first grant was successful academic and employment pathways and advanced technologies, and that we rebranded that Path Tech Tampa Bay. That was a holistic examination of pathways in and out of career and technical education, career academies in high school, and then community college advanced technology programs and manufacturing and high tech jobs based on interviews with high school students, teachers, and industry leaders in the Tampa Bay area. Then scaled that project up to a national survey called Path Tech Life, life standing for learning, interest, family, and employment. So we interviewed, we surveyed over 3,000 students at 96 community colleges around the country, and then followed up with that with Path Tech Listen, mixed methods longitudinal investigations of students in technician education. And this was longitudinal follow-up interviews with some of the students who had taken that survey. So looking at their post-college pathways. Over the last few years, I've kind of moved away from being a principal investigator to being a co-PI, researcher, and external evaluator on various projects, most of which deal specifically with community colleges. So the first grant that I'm a co-PI on is based here at USF. It's called Turnpike, standing for Transfer Undergraduate Rural, Non-Rural Student Pathways through Identity, Knowledge, and Engagement. And this grant was awarded to help low-income rural and non-traditional community college students transfer to USF Engineering. That project is led by University of South Florida and Polk State College, which is a mostly rural community college in neighboring Polk County. It's a county between Tampa and Orlando. Then I'm also a co-principal investigator of the Community College S-STEM Network, which is one of the S-STEM research hubs that is funded to study the conditions for success for low-income undergraduate and graduate STEM students. And that project is led by Rutgers University. It's a pretty expansive project. We have done case studies at different locations, 2 community colleges, and a case study at USF looking at community college transfer students. Also conducted a survey of STEM grantees that are at community colleges or at 4 years on projects involved with community colleges. And we also have a student survey out in the field. We're going to get that back going again, specifically looking at STEM scholars at projects that are led by community colleges. In addition to this work, I'm also a researcher for the Micro Nanotechnology Education Center at Pasadena City College, and I'm also external program external principal investigator for the program evaluation of the NSF I-Use program, Improving Undergraduate STEM Education. That's led by Mathematica. And when I say all that, I understand why I'm busy.
Wow, Will.
I have a lot going on.
Yes, yes. So in terms of implementation, what is something that you all found surprising or unexpected when it came to implementing your STEM project?
I'll start since I
Yeah,
didn't
go ahead,
answer the
Will.
question about what was unexpected. When we first got the Turnpike grant here at USF, the timing, if you've looked up the grant, and some of you probably went through this as well, the grant was awarded like shortly before COVID. And so we had to deal with the challenges of recruiting students, recruiting community college students into a project at a time when community college enrollment was declining, a time of uncertainty. And so I say the thing that I wish I knew in advance, and I'll lead into the implementation issue, was how different STEM is than other NSF projects that I have been on because the strict focus is funding students. And so the scholarships take up a large portion of the budget by design, 60% if I remember correctly. And that means the rest of the budget is very restricted in terms of paying salaries instead of covering support and other things that we would typically have on grants that are aimed at serving students. So if you're coming to STEM from another program where you have like $1 million budget and you're saying, well, I can do pay this person to do this for students, this person do this for students, et cetera, et cetera. You have to make sure you balance the support with the financial and figure out how to integrate the financial support into the other supports that you are giving. And some of the research that I've led out of the CCSN STEM Hub and out of Turnpike looks specifically at how students use their financial aid to help those goals. So, kind of how the scholarships are integrated into the broader mission. It's not just a quick influx of cash, it is part of the support and should be treated as such. But the challenge is definitely recruiting students. That's something that was a real big challenge because I think the NSF perspective on STEM is, oh, we're giving students money. Of course, they'll take it. And, $10,000 or $15,000 seems like a lot of money when you are treating it as a scholarship that you are giving to someone instead of nothing. But for the students, the decision is not between nothing and $10,000 or $15,000. The decision is I'm making 30,000, 40,000 working at this job. If I cut down my hours, if I go to halftime, if I go to 20 a week, then I'm only making 20,000. I need to make up the gap beyond this 10,000 or whatever that I'm getting from this scholarship. And so I think it's really important to think of the scholarship as part of an incentive, but also part of a sacrifice students are making. And I can talk more about kind of treating being an STEM scholar like a job and how that framework may help students make that transition, particularly students in community college. Oh, and I'll add another thing, but I don't want to forget this. We were having a recruitment meeting a virtual meeting during COVID for students, and I was fascinated since again this Turnpike grant services rural students, how far away they thought Tampa was. Like they would say, I'm from Winter Park. That's about 2.5, 3 hours from Tampa. And I'm like, no, Winter Park's not that far away. And I would look it up and like, that's about like, hour 45, 2 hours or whatever. But like I realized that like these are kids. Like their perspective of Tampa is the big city. They may have gone there on a school bus on a field trip. They may have gone there with their parents when they were little to go to Busch Gardens. Like it is a big deal for these students to make that transition to the big city from some of the more rural areas that they're in. And like all of them way over exaggerated how long it takes, even taking into account traffic on I-4. And so that was fascinating to me. So that's something also to keep in mind when recruiting students.
Thank you for those insights. Yeah, it's as we've learned hosting the scholars meeting, which it is a humongous deal to the S-STEM scholars to get on a plane and come and travel. And this is good distances for a lot of them. A lot of them never have traveled that far away from home to attend our annual scholars meeting. Yeah, it's a really life-changing experience, but it's always good to kind of remember and learn more about the perspectives of the scholars that you're serving, and in order to do the best, tailor your program to the best ways that you can support them. But I wanted to give either Jennifer or Yoel, if you have further insight about things that surprised you when it went to implementing your program. Yoel, I see you shaking your head. Go ahead.
I can jump in. Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. Well, I believe actually the time that we spent as an administrator of this project, for example, the payment process at the beginning needed to be figured out. The payment process include different institutions. Well, our institution, host institution, the 4G institution, our CUNY Research Foundation, also the CUNY Center Finance Office. Then to put everybody on board, this actually takes some conversation and significant effort initially. But once you actually streamline the process, it was actually pretty good. But be aware that the administrative part of the project is actually important to take into consideration.
Go ahead, Jessica. I saw you came off mute.
So I had thought about this. So I knew that the financial support was going to be, well, I had thought it was going to be at the center stage for us, but we actually found that once we started implementing the components of the grant, that really the wellness and mental health component really took the center stage for us. Um, I, um, I don't know. I would say maybe I discovered that a lot of the barriers to success were often more about life logistics, and emotional resilience than just the tuition costs. Of course, they were incredibly, it was a value, and we have lots of data that supports that, the value and the ability that gave our scholars the ability to take more credits, not work as much, not be as burdened. But we absolutely found that we realized that if students were struggling with the pressures of either being first generation, or isolation in the rural area, a check alone wasn't going to be enough to keep them in the program. So that was really insightful for us. And then also, this is a little, maybe a personal touch too, is what was so surprising for me was my own reaction when our team put together our first award packages that summer. And I guess it started in spring and then summer. We were bringing them in the fall. When we sent them out, um, I got surprisingly emotional. I still get a little emotional talking about it because I know that we're conduits of these funds, but realizing that we were providing a path for these scholars for them, the only way they were going to be pursuing their STEM dreams, and having the ability to offer them this kind of whole support was a moment I didn't realize would hit me so hard. It made it very clear that our faculty, financial aid office, our counseling services, how important that we were all working together and keeping in alignment because we wholeheartedly believed in our vision and what we were doing for these scholars. So that's thanks.
I appreciate you sharing that, Jessica. It's something I think is so important to acknowledge about the specialness of the S-STEM program and how it really does change lives. It really is, like you said, a conduit to these scholars having access not only to the financial piece, but also to the resources and the knowledge and the support that really launches them on their way to a successful career in STEM. And it's just so amazing to be part of it. And at the AAAS STEM Rec, we feel very privileged to support you all who are supporting your scholars on the campuses. So thanks for acknowledging that. This also ties into a question when you were talking, Jessica, that somebody raised in the chat, which it comes up a lot, and we kind of refer to it as like the $1,000,000 question everybody always asks. So since the S-STEM program doesn't allow people to require scholars to participate in activities, how do you get them to be engaged and be involved in program activities of the S-STEM program? I don't know if Jessica, you want to talk to that first, and then we'll go to other panelists.
I'd be happy to. So yes, no requirement, but we created more of a culture. Like we have this community, we have this cohort, we get together, often, myself and another co-PI, we do potlucks. We just bring food and we just get us all together. And I think, like I said, it's just we've created a culture that it's like, this is what we're going to do. We meet on Common Hour. We're lucky that our campus has a Common Hour, so we don't have to deal with things like class conflicts or anything else. So most of our students, especially our STEM students, are already on campus in the morning for their STEM classes. So then to stay for that noon hour or 50 minutes to do a developmental activity. We usually tie the other pieces together. So if we have a survey that we want to administer, we'll have that as a captive audience to remind them to complete it. So we've been pretty successful with the food piece. And then also, I think that's probably all, just creating a culture that this is what we do as a cohort. And then in our second, bringing in now even our third year, we have some initial activities, but then it's not just isolated of the cohorts, we're bringing them all in. And then we're also including our STEM faculty mentors. So yeah, I think we've been creating the excitement about these things. We had an event at the Makerspace where they got to make materials, things that excite them, and then also still getting some of the pieces. Some of the focus groups, we did provide them with small gift cards for their participation, things like that, even though it was anonymous and it was given, I guess the results were anonymous. They were just summarized from an external person. So, yeah, those are some ways that we've been able to encourage participation.
Yoel, how do you create community and get students engaged at Hastos Community College?
Thank you, Tara. Thank you for the question. This is a really nice question. Yeah, because the activities are not really required, but the idea is actually to create this sense of belonging, a very nice community. And then what we do always is to welcome all the scholars, the first cohort, when we actually recruited them. We invite the whole community to this event. It's a nice gathering. They started to know each other from the beginning. And then at the end of the semester, also we have end of the semester gathering, and in between we have field trips. Sometimes actually we take the students to conferences, like for example the S-STEM, scholar meeting, and also for professional conferences. And all these activities really create very nice, sense of community and a strong community in our program. And the students actually come to all the activities, unless actually they have an exam or something that they prevent, they are prevented to come and join us, but most of them actually are connected. And we bring together also the mentors, the peer mentors, the STEM faculty, everybody's actually is involved in all the activity. That's why actually we create this robust community and they feel part of the community. Even actually the one that I graduated, when we actually have the end of the semester gathering, they come and join and talk to the current students in our program.
That's fantastic. Will, any thoughts about student engagement?
Yeah, I could definitely echo that building community is key. With our project at USF, we're dealing with community college transfers. So a big part of that is building that community among students who are, coming to the university for the first time, don't know anybody. And when we interviewed students about their experiences, they found the community piece was just so important because if they did not have the S-STEM program, if they didn't have Turnpike, they wouldn't know who the other transfers are. And so building that community among transfers was really important for a variety of reasons. First of all, to know that they're not the only one. I think all of us have probably been in a situation where we walk into a classroom, walk into a conference, walk into some space, and it feels like we're the only person who's new. And so it's extremely comforting to go into these spaces and say, hey, and a trusted faculty member, staff member say, hey, all of you are new here, all of you are welcome, and get to know each other, appreciate each other, support each other. That's extremely important because then you get that peer element in terms of, showing up to different activities, showing up for advising. It is a collaborative thing. And students talked about how they didn't feel alone in their struggles because they thought their classmates are, really brilliant, really great people, and they're struggling too. So it's not just them. And so having a cohort model, it's not just about the social support necessarily, but it's about the shared sense of struggle. Um, so at USF, we have biweekly meetings for the STEM scholars. And I've attended several of these meetings, both as a guest speaker, just for fun, for recruiting for our project. And it's always well attended. The students really enjoy, being there. The food is good. I always look forward to the sandwiches. I'll take two if there's extras. Um, and the students appreciate having this opportunity to kind of spend time with each other, to network. When went and presented some of the findings from our interviews with the students, one of them said, and I thought this was particularly interesting, that these meetings give them an opportunity to practice their networking skills. She was talking about doing like professional networking in the Tampa Bay area, these types of events. And she said, I felt comfortable doing it because I came to these biweekly meetings and, I had experience making small talk, talking about what I'm working on, that sort of thing. And that really helped me understand, this is part of how I see the STEM scholarship as like your first engineering job. And so the networking piece is key to that and key to the professionalization. Um, then some of the research that we're doing at CCSN from our grantee survey is from the perception of the grantees reporting about what were some of the program elements most used by the students. The advising was very popular, so faculty mentoring was one of the most commonly used by students. Advising and transfer workshops, having a dedicated student success coach or a specialist or coordinator was key. Our coordinator person here at USF, she's fantastic. All the students, they specifically mention her unprompted in the interviews as key to their success. And the bi-weekly meetings are in line with that. Like they have the bi-weekly meetings on Fridays, and then on off Fridays, they have scheduled meetings with her. And so they know that they need to be on campus on Friday, and that's part of their routine.
Thank you for those examples. Yeah, I've heard talking with other PIs that it really makes a difference, the activities that that you have, that you offer to scholars, and they should be so engaging and so meaningful to them that the scholars want to come. They want to participate because it adds value, it adds support, it's helpful. It brings a shared sense of community, a shared space where they can talk about struggles and things like that. So I think the true value is figuring out, like understanding your student context, your college context, and what are the best ways to support them and working those supports into your program. So this leads into another question about when you go to write your proposal or thinking about creating your project activities, how do you tailor your project to reflect important aspects of your institution or the reality of your scholars or unique strengths of your particular campus? Any thoughts about this? Like how you've thought about the context, particularly of your community, of your environment, of your scholars, and wove those into your program building.
I can jump in, Tara. Yeah,
Yes, go
thank you.
ahead, Joel.
Well, on our perspective, I believe actually one of the most important aspects you submit your SSTEM proposal is to present data clearly on student financial aid, average unmet need, retention rate, graduation rate, number of students in the target program, to project how many students will be eligible for the scholarship. This actually is really important as well. This way, you can actually make a strong case of the needs of the institution, especially of the interest target student field. In our case, I was the engineering program. So that the proposal actually appear appealing to the reviewers and also show that the project could be successful. It is okay not to appear too ambitious, but to include that the needs of the scholars are being addressed, during the writing of the proposal. For example, our hostel students and other low-income students across the nation need to work and attend school at the same time, right? Then the STEM scholarship could help lessen their financial burden so they can really dedicate more time to the schoolwork. Also, another aspect that is important is to have the project alignment with institutional goals, right? This is actually also key, both things actually need to be really, really aligned. I believe I should mention a little bit, but other aspect to keep in mind is, do we have enough number of students to be selected for the S-STEM scholarship? For example, if we aim to select 10 students per cohort every year, for example, for the first 3 years of our S-STEM program, at least we would anticipate having 20 scholars or 20 applications to meet the baseline for a scholarship. That's actually really important. In addition, is there any or enough workforce needed in the target project STEM field? In our case, for example, was engineering. In your location, city, state, nationwide, there is enough actual workforce needed for this, field. Look for the projection in employment of the respective field within the next 10 years in the labor department to justify the need for the requested SSTEM program scholarship in your narrative. This actually is really important. This is actually one, kind of the, suggestion that I provide to the new, PI or co-PI writing this kind of proposal.
Thanks for bringing those up. Those are really important considerations when writing your proposal. I know they're really important factors that we here at NSF talk about a lot, is that review panels are looking to fund projects where the scholars that are low income and interested in pursuing STEM degrees, in particular certain majors that you're looking to implement your programs in, that they exist, that they're there, that you are fulfilling a need where the demand is already existing on your campus. And also, thanks for also bringing up the regional need as well. So are there going to be jobs for scholars who graduate from these programs? Are there jobs available just waiting for people? And these are important aspects, I know, of the review panels that they look for in an important ask actually of the solicitation. So this also goes into questions about scholar identification and like the application process as well. We also have a question in the chat about this. If how did your application process work and your scholar identification selection work? Were they already at your institution? Were they already freshmen, or did you recruit freshmen? If anybody would like to talk more about scholar identification selection on their campuses.
I can start. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say you could go. For our campus, we spent a lot of time working with our marketing departments. Um, we marketed to not just our FECC students, but in the broader valley, all of our local high schools. Um, and we worked with them extensively. We right on our we worked with the student support area on campus to develop an accessible application. We were really focused on making sure that we would remove all bars for applicants. So, as we had a simple link, we also, if the students just wanted to sit with an advisor, we really leaned on our advisors. We were making sure the information was out to our advisors, to our faculty, so that they were also connecting with students as well. And they had the information in hand, and we're encouraging their potential applicants to actually submit their applications. But then once the applications came in, there was student support staff that helped them get those pieces in. So our application had a few questions that then would, in the background, trigger the right people to be connecting with those people. So if they didn't have a Pell filled out already, we had the right support staff to help them. There was a bunch of support staff to help them, aid them to get their FAFSA in and collect the pieces they needed for that. Um, if they if they needed to get an actual application into our college, there were people. Those are just some few examples. And then once we started getting applicants, it was really important for us. We wanted to make sure that we had a rolling application, but we wanted to make sure that we were getting out our offers, at least our first set of offers, to people before decision date, the national decision date. So we developed metrics to rate all of the applicants. We had a panel that would review them. We had rubrics for if they were high school students versus if they were already on campus. We looked at STEM versus overall classes, just in case the students haven't explored STEM yet. And that all of these pieces really helped for continuity as we were assessing them. And that was all. We were on a review process. We were meeting weekly. Our program management team was meeting weekly. And then over the summer, we would meet as well so often we get students who are thinking about college right before college is starting in the fall. So we were making sure we were looking at those opportunities and working closely with financial aid and the other support pieces. So I might have over answered that question. I hope that is
No, I
applicable.
appreciate you explaining the different ways the application and the initiation of the scholars into the program, the initial onboarding of them actually requires so many different offices and connections across the campus. Yoel, I'll go to you, and then we'll go to Will for his insights as well.
Thank you, Tara. Well, I wanted to second Jessica. We do more or less the same thing. We really spread out the whole application to everyone possible, interacting with potential students. We also reach out to high school, close by our institution. Then we receive for the application. There is a few questions in the application. And then we selected, the top that really actually meet all the requirements, and then we interview them. There is a review panel that interview all the applicant who meet the baseline for the scholarship, and then we decided based on the interview and also on the requirement that they made. But we really share the whole application in our website, institution website, in our HEAT website, and we share with every friend that we have around that actually is working with a student, how to recruit and attract students. The students who are not currently in the school because they are actually maybe in high school or they're transferring, when they actually get into the college, they need to declare the engineering program, the engineering major, because this is actually one of the requirements to be in the program. But that's actually the only thing that they need to do new when they join the college. But everybody actually is, we share with everybody the application.
Yes, important to share the application far and wide. And Will, your program is a little bit different and to answer somebody's question up here, Will's Track 3 program is the only one that is a partnership between a 2-year school and a 4-year school, whereas Jessica and Yoel's programs are within their own institutions, not working with another institution. Did I get that correct, Jessica and Yoel? Yes, okay. But go ahead, Will, if you have thoughts about the scholar selection identification.
Yeah, just a few things to add. I mean, this is part of the challenge, right? Like you want talented low-income students, but if you use GPA as the sole measure of talent, then you may eliminate students who need a scholarship in order to be able to focus to study to get a high GPA. So it's always interesting how different programs negotiate these challenges. And that's something we're going to be studying as part of the CCSN as well. Like how do you figure out these things? So a few things to add. In terms of when students were contacted as part of the project, I hope y'all can't hear my dogs in the background. There's something exciting going on. Good. Um, it's distracting me though. But the students were contacted before they enrolled at USF. So they were brought in from their community college as S-STEM scholars. And that was very important to the students when they reported like their interest in it. They were able to see like, oh, okay, like I'm I'm a little nervous, I'm a little anxious about making this big transition. So this is something that's going to help me out. And a lot of them said they were more interested in like the internship possibilities than the scholarship itself. But like I think that really made a difference to contact them as early as possible. So most of the students, most of the Turnpike scholars came in with an S-STEM, and the ones at Polk State were scholars when they came in. We ended up having to open up the program to more than just Polk State students due to some of the challenges of recruiting during COVID. Going back to the previous question about things that you did in the grant to include kind of the specific nature of the institution. We're very upfront in the grant, especially like in the first paragraph, that this is to help students transition to one of the largest universities in the country in a growing urban area. And so that's upfront that it's not just about students transferring from a community college to a 4-year. It's about students like uprooting their life to move to a completely different place and do a completely different thing in a much larger environment. And anybody who's had to make a transition from a community college, or in my case, like a small liberal, being a student at small liberal arts colleges, to going to a major university, that is just a huge transition to see, be part of this sea of people on a daily basis. And so that's something that we took into account as we were putting the grant together.
And for Will, somebody wants to know, did both the 2-year institution and the 4-year institution offer scholarships?
Yes, the Polk State was able to offer scholarships, and then, like I said before, we ended up opening it up to more community colleges. So now we have community colleges from various institutions, even some outside of Florida. Um, but yeah, the Polk State students had scholarships. and then got scholarships when they came to USF.
Thank you for that. So another question for you all is, who were some of the key on or off-campus partnerships you engaged when developing your S-STEM proposal? Would somebody like to jump in?
I can start.
Go ahead, Yoel.
Thank you, Tara. Well, in our HEAP program, our partnership with the Grove School of Engineering of CUNY has been the key aspect for the program success. Over 20 years, we have built a very robust jointly raised engineering degree program between Hostos and the Grove School of Engineering. And the healthy ecosystem between the two institutions has been determined for the success of the program. What is really important is to have fully alignment of the curriculum between the two institutions that actually is allowed to keep the same standard of the courses that are taught on both institutions, as well as the student can take classes at the Grove School of Engineering before they transfer to the Grove School of Engineering. That means that actually they can get familiarized with the four-year institution even before going into the four-year institution. This is actually something that has been a really plus for the success of our program.
Will, do you have more to add with the proposal development? And then maybe after that, I'll hop to Jessica about, since you weren't in the proposal writing process, maybe about the implementation, who your key partnerships are.
Oh, I'll pass it on to Jessica.
So the question, when we were implementing it, what was our key on and off partnerships? Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did share about a few of them previously, but especially on campus, it was critical for us to be collaborating with our institutional research, financial aid, student success, our campus wellness, specifically for our grant, especially since it was such a big part of our intellectual merit. And also with the faculty and making in our divisions, we have two different STEM divisions to make, again, just to make sure that we were all in alignment for the vision of the grant. We've also, because of our cohort model in some of the courses, as well as the activities and the developmental activities, as well as tying it to our STEM colloquium that's here on campus. We wanted to collaborate with professionals and experts in the STEM areas. And it could be regional, but also we looked to some of our four-year institutions since that was also, it's a goal that they're not just going to successfully graduate from here, but they'll go on to a four-year institution. So we wanted to bring them in, especially aimed at exposing them into these different areas, whether it was partners in industry, kind of connecting, like bridging it between our classrooms for our cohort classes into the workforce to be able to put them in direct contact with them, but then also experts, people who have written peer-reviewed journals in the different areas, and we rotate them and have them connected to the cohort classes. So that was large, and we're continuing to do that with the different places across. Well, for us, for Montana, but also other REU funded projects across our area as well. So sometimes having the PIs for those different projects. And then it just escaped me. What was the last one that I really wanted to touch base on? Oh, we have local STEAM Alliance, so including art, in our valley that does a lot of outreach at our K through 12. And so that was one of our big partnership as well. So to connect with them, we're providing opportunities for our scholars as like a service structure to connect with them. So it's great. It's opportunities for them to serve in those capacities, but also um, to I don't know, encourage the next generation as well as they're thinking about, oh yeah, they can see themselves maybe pursuing STEM. So, and we do that in a variety of different ways as well. Thanks.
Thank you. That makes me wonder, you talked about connections with industry and local workforce and employers. Yoel or Will, I'm wondering how those types of connections are fostered in your STEM projects.
Oh, thank you so much, Will and Tal. Actually, I wanted also to add one key that is really important is to keep a strong relationship with the financial aid office
Yes.
or all the institution, as Jessica mentioned. And also we leverage of the STEM program in our institution in order to provide all this activity in order to create this actually robust community, and also to provide students with undergraduate research opportunity. All this is really important. Then everybody actually is on board in order to facilitate the student life. But in terms of the industry, we try actually to place students, into the industry as well. We actually take the student to professional conferences for them to see actually career jobs opportunity. This actually is really important. We take actually our students to the SWEET conference, the Society for Women Engineering conference that we actually have been bringing the students for the last 3 or 4 years and have been very successful. And the students actually can get, exposed to the different employee opportunity. Even during the conference, the students have been called for job opportunity and they have been actually hired for internship, also for jobs. Few of our students actually have been already, working while they were pursuing the bachelor in engineering just before finishing for MEC, for all the actually pharmaceutical company. They actually have been, really, really nice to be able to show them, how to find those opportunities.
Now, I'll add that the Turnpike program integrates industry partners into the mix, have industry partners come in and give talks during the biweekly meetings. Those are devoted both to like professional development, but also having outside speakers come in, coordinating internships, that sort of thing.
One thing that I forgot to mention, and it was completely by mistake, but I also should have mentioned it. It's definitely our external evaluator. It has been incredible to not just work with the AAAS to like be able to get resources from this platform, but also, yeah, our collaborator has been, or our evaluator has been an important collaborator for us as well. Just always thinking of just different resources, and maybe they don't always work, but to know that we have tons of resources that we can go and look at and see what's been done, and just new ideas. So just having it was more um it, it it's such an important, at least my experience has been, it's been an important relationship throughout the life of our grant. That was the other thing.
Yeah, I just wanted also to add that we also have a series of career development and career orientation, career path, and we actually do this along the semester. And also we have the Science Week and with engineering, and also the Earth Day celebration, the Earth Week celebration, and also we bring people, to be able to share with them the job opportunity as well in the industry. And,
Thank you.
career services is really important as well, to work with career services.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as you can see, there's a ton of different stakeholders, partners, internal, external, and it all brings me back to Will's initial point of like how an STEM grant is so different from so many other types of, particularly NSF grants, and particularly as you're all faculty members and you have so many commitments of teaching, research, service, administration. How do you increase your capacity to complete all that's needed in carrying out a successful S-STEM award, all this relationship building, all this project management coordination? And then how do you account for staff time and effort when you're writing an S-STEM proposal? Will, would you like to start?
I will start by saying this is one of the big issues that we've encountered. I was on another grant um, through ATE that looked specifically at like grant ecosystems for community colleges. And this is one of the issues that continues to come up. Like, how do you compensate community college faculty? I'm fortunate to be at a 4 year where I can just, my department knows like, hey, Will, you need to buy out this semester. Like, you got any money for that? Um, and so it's fairly easy, and some are funding and all that. But in coordinating with community colleges, it's a big challenge. And I think I think NSF and community college grantees need to work together to figure out successful strategies. In that other project through ATE that I'm talking about, the lack of incentive for community college faculty was one of the factors that discouraged them from applying for a second grant. And I'm working on a proposal, well, submitted a proposal last year with a community college, small college. It's a program, I think, with three faculty, and we were working with two of them. And, we asked, like, how can we compensate your time and effort and whatever? I mean, and they told a story about how they had to take sabbatical to do pilot research to learn how to increase the resources for their students that we were basing this proposal on. I'm like, oh my God, like they couldn't even take a real sabbatical because they couldn't get the time to do like work that they needed to do to bolster the program. So yeah, that's a big challenge, and I'm curious to see the strategies that Jessica and Yoel have come up with.
I think, yeah, as a tenured faculty at a primarily teaching institution, all of my colleagues were juggling heavy loads between teaching, service, administrative stuff, tasks. Um, I, when I transitioned into the PI role, I considered it for a while because I knew that it would be um, a large role that was added to my responsibilities. But I did bring a mindset that from my previous leadership experience that I knew I wasn't going to be able to run this effectively if it was just on my own and I couldn't have like possession over every piece. So I really tried to lead with like a heart position that I was going to be of service and I was going to delegate a lot of the tasks out and then really focus on the management and making sure I'm seeing the vision and pulling the pieces together. But yeah, that first year, even if there was experts in certain areas of the college, if I'm being asked to then give oversight, like I spent a lot of time reviewing all of like the PAPG and our going back to the grant and just it was a big learning curve. But I can say the hope is that with that distributed kind of like ownership of the grant, it really helped. Like for example, like one of my co-PIs are really focused on like the STEM identity building pieces, where we have another partnership where they're really focused on the wellness, mental health part, and that's another co-PI as well. Um, I definitely thought about like the when we're thinking about like staff time. I'm in the middle of writing another grant, so definitely having those conversations, and I'm not just having like reaching out to the department, sitting down with them. I started well out in advance for a March submission. And then also asking them well in advance for like the space and time commitment that we needed. So for institutional research, if I needed the data, I I approached them and said, these are the things that I need and how long, what kind of timeline. So those kinds of things have really helped our overall institution. Um, and then also, I think I'm really grateful because I brought the project for uh, the first grant as well as any proposals going in front of exec staff. So all of our areas, the people that are leading those areas are very aware of the project's vision, what's needed, and also careful consideration if we have the capacity. And so once they're saying, yes, we're doing this, this is the resources, it has made all of the pieces work well together for us. So I would say, things definitely build as a PI in your second and third year as you're collecting data and your reports are getting more. But also, um, I know my executive leadership has offered me things like release time and trying to help support me because again, they are stakeholders in our success. So
It's great to hear you have that campus support. Yoel.
Thank you, Tara, and thank you, Jessica and Willie, for sharing your thoughts. I believe the first thing is to be realistic in terms of the time before the project actually is funded. As Jessica will actually say, it's a lot of work. One of the suggestions would be trying to allocate release time within the STEM fund, and also you can actually negotiate with the administration to have some extra release time as well. That could be actually also a plus. In our case, actually, we have been very, supportive from our administration. You want your student to be successful. You want the program to be successful. And when you become, for example, a S-STEM, mentor, you're very passionate. You want the student actually to be, successful, the scholar be successful. Then sometimes you schedule a meeting for 15 minutes, but that meeting actually is no longer 15 minutes. It's so now 1 hour, right? Then that's something that you need to keep in mind. And also delegate. This is really important. You work as a team. You need to work collaboratively. And that's actually the key for success. Everybody need to bring their own, everybody need to change, and everybody need to bring their own strength to the project. And also something that been working for us a lot, our program assistant is an alumni from the engineering program, and he knows a lot about the engineering, all the aspects from the curriculum, how to also, because he was in the same, position of the student before. He was actually also, he has been a key for the success because that interaction with the student has been also very, very straight and very actually nice as well. But be realistic in terms of the time commitment is really, really important. Yeah. And release time, please. Try to locate release time in your budget.
Really important advice to, probably more than be realistic, right? So probably budget time-wise, more time than you think something would take, and also to use your whole team and delegate tasks and responsibilities. We have a question in the chat about how do we evaluate scholar progress year over year to ensure they're moving toward graduation?
I can jump in.
Sure.
Well, we see, of course, their GPA along the whole journey that they have. Also, they're involved in different activities, but mainly actually it's their GPA that they meet actually the requirement of the program, and also what the support that we can provide from the program. But they also can, most of our HIT scholar join undergraduate research opportunity, and also that actually, make more robust their preparation toward the workforce, and also when they transfer to the four-year institution. But mainly, actually, what we track is their GPA, and if they actually are in probation, how we can help them to improve their GPA and be supportive along the way. And also important, that they meet the financial, requirement of the program because they need to be, they need to have a main need to be part of the program. They need to keep this along the whole program.
Will or Jessica, anything to add about monitoring scholar progress?
It's not really my part of the project, so I'll go to Jessica.
Uh, Thank you. We do a similar process, but I think why the STEM projects are, well, I could speak for my own. We provide this holistic support system. So sometimes movement in GPA may get flagged um, because maybe it drops below or maybe there's something going on. But I think for most of us, like having the holistic supports, having the STEM mentors, we have our co-PIs who facilitate our cohort classes. So there is multiple people who are there in the support system, not just their academic advisors who also they've had training to serve as STEM mentors as well. But there's so many of us here so that if something it becomes maybe clear, like maybe a GPA, or maybe all of a sudden the courses don't look like it's correct for the career path. Um, well, hopefully we try to catch those because they're getting registered in the cohort class, or they're getting those reminders and getting reminders to meet with their advisors, but then also they're simultaneously meeting with their faculty mentors. I think all of those pieces are working together to help support that piece so that if something is not if something's out of riot, the kind of flags the support pieces. We definitely, besides GPA, we also uh, we are keeping track of things like participation and stuff like that as well for the different parts of our project. So those are other pieces as well that we're kind of seeing. And then also we we know all of our scholars for at least our project. I know them personally. I've seen them in the developmental activities. I'm engaged just like everybody else has shared. So, sometimes a personal email goes out to or hey, do you want to grab some coffee just to see you to make sure that we're equipping them with additional supports if something is going off in a place that we didn't expect. Thanks.
Another thing
Thank
that
you,
I want
Ellie.
to yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
want to
Noah.
quickly, yeah, sorry. I wanted to add something that also our students sometimes actually take classes together. And when they take class together, they create those bonding. And when they
Mhm.
transfer to the Growth School of Engineering, they remain together working. That means that when they transfer over there, they already have that support among them. This is something that is working really nice also for the program. And also when something like this happens, some students actually are maybe uh, decreasing their GPA or they're having problems with some courses, we refer to some, alumni of the program or some actually peers that are more advanced to talk to them as well, because they already know actually how maybe to handle those courses as well.
Thank you. This all really illuminates how important the non-financial supports are, those wraparound supports. It takes so much more than just scholarships for low-income, highly talented students to overcome obstacles and barriers. We're getting very close to time. I just want to provide space for your brief thought about what is one key piece of advice you would have for folks submitting an S-STEM proposal that supports community college students? Go
Yeah,
ahead,
I'll
Will.
start. It kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, is really know the program. Know that the scholarships are the focus. Know that you may not have the budget leeway to do a lot of what you may have done on previous projects if you've been involved in previous projects. Um, Kind of understand what you're getting into. That's very positive, but like, I think some folks may not realize exactly what the STEM program is specifically designed to do, and only do that if you are prepared to do a lot of direct work with students and to be kind of intimately involved in helping out their financial situation. Um, and make sure that the team that you put together knows that that is going to be one of your core responsibilities. And that's not just in the classroom. The broader support piece is key.
Yoel, what's your thoughts?
Thank you, Tara. Well, my thought is to carefully read the program solicitation and to stick to what is asked for every section. If the section actually asks for A, please address A. That's actually, be direct, simple in your narrative. Prepare a very clear logic model and a strong assessment, and also another piece of advice to design a very strong mentoring component.
Thank you. Great tips. And Jessica.
I would echo what has already been said by the other panelists. I am maybe what I would add to is I know that for the first grant, there was a lot of mentorship. So the writers and developers of the grant, after it was written, they had feedback, they had mentorship through the whole process of developing it and writing it. And that's kind of the process that we're going through now is that once we're getting all of the pieces, we're making sure that we get all the appropriate feedback, also connecting with the people who have mentored us, maybe doing the initial, getting the bulk piece and the vision together, but then also making sure that we're relying on the community of STEM experience to help us and to help support us. I feel very comfortable reaching out to my program officer. I feel very comfortable reaching out to any of our resources and saying, I just have a quick question. And I've never not felt, I have always been supported every single time that I've reached out and asked for some guidance or help.
Fantastic. That's a great point actually for us to end on as we're building community through asking questions and advice from one another in this panel today. So thank you so much to Jessica, Yoel, and Will for sharing all of your knowledge and experiences. Also, thank you to Tom Kim and Mike Farrar for joining us today. Please provide your feedback on today's webinar by taking our short survey. In addition to appearing when you exit Zoom, this link will be emailed to you tomorrow. We are so thankful for your feedback as it's so important to us. And next slide. It was wonderful to have you all engaged today, and we encourage you to stay connected with the AAAS S-STEM Rec. We serve to be a resource for S-STEM projects and prospective awardees nationwide. So please visit our website, explore our resources, sign up to receive our monthly newsletter, follow us on social media. Thank you all again for joining us. Thank you again to our panelists. We really look forward to engaging with you in future webinars and hope you have a wonderful rest of the day and best of luck with your NSF S-STEM proposal submissions. They're due March 3rd. Take care, everybody.